All right, we call to order the August 12th meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. If everybody stand for the invocation pledge. Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, Lord God. Thank you for all the many blessings that you've given us, Lord God. Please bless our citizens, bless our first responders, bless our city staff. Lord, in Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Chair Lomneck.
Here.
Vice Chair Forges is absent. Member Keller.
Here.
Member Chacon.
Here.
Member Galvin.
Here.
Member Butler.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. All right, consent agenda, minutes of the planning and zoning meeting held from July 18th, 2025, July 8th, 2025. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Member Keller and a second by Member Chacon. If all those are good, let's go ahead and vote.
Galvin.
Oh, shit, I thought you said that. So that was approved by Member Keller and seconded by Member Galvin. All those in favor, let's vote. And then I'm cursing on public television. That's great. That passed. Okay. No old business, no new business. Tonight we're here to do the Land Development Code workshop with Deputy Service Director Whitfield.
Good
And there
evening.
she just shows up out of the...
No, we were back there going over notes, and we're like, "Oh no, it's starting! Let's rush on out."
Our new time, 6:15.
Yes, sir. Let me. Okay, so we have one topic, but a lot of ground to cover. Well, two topics, but a lot of ground to cover. We had promised from the last workshop that we would bring the uses table, and also a follow-up from the June meeting where we talked about removing minimum living area. So the response that staff has is to just retain the minimum living area for the traditional neighborhood that has the larger lot sizes now. And I'll go into that detail as we go on. So from the previous workshop, minimum living area, we're proposing 1,000 square feet. We can discuss that if you'd like, go up, go down. Some examples, my parents' 3-bedroom, 2-bath house is on 0.33 acres, and theirs is 1,100 square feet. I think, Tori, your house is, how big is your house? My house is 25, but it's 2 stories on 0.2 acres. And then we also looked at some houses in the Blueford area and then in the R1 AAA. And so they're between 11 to 2,000. So you can discuss, we can discuss this number, or we can let it ride, just so that there's at least a minimum. And the 1,000 is well above the size for being considered a tiny home, according to the Florida Building Code. And then because that zoning district allows duplexes, we are proposing to keep it at 650. That's what's in the code now. So we'll just keep duplexes at 650 per unit. So the whole building itself could be a minimum of 1,300. We removed the non-conforming regulations discussion here because we had planned on bringing that back, but having met with the city attorney, Attorney Day, earlier today, we're not ready to bring that back. So Craig's directed staff and the city attorney's office to do more research, so that'll come back later. Okay, I don't recall if we've shared this with you before, but there was a need to create a correlations table between the future land use categories and the zoning districts that could be allowed in them. So we have the new mixed-use future land use designation, and so a compatible zoning district would be the mixed-use zoning district. Commercial would be the neighborhood commercial, so all of the commercial zoning districts, the mixed residential district, and the urban village district. Professional offices and services, neighborhood commercial, which now includes office uses, and then urban village, which also includes office uses. Light industrial, keeping the LI, light industrial, the arterial commercial, because we're speaking in terms of like craft industrial, community commercial, arterial commercial. Not fond of the arterial commercial nomenclature, so we're thinking about maybe coming up with a different title for that. And then the mixed use category. Heavy industrial is just the same, heavy industrial, also I2, arterial commercial, so those are like along the state roads and the collector roads, major collector roads, and then mixed use. We have a future land use category for public facilities and institutional uses, and a zoning district for public lands and institutions that's kind of been on the books, but it doesn't exist anywhere on the map, so we're just keeping that the same. High-density residential, so the various types of residential classifications, and the commercial classifications that allow the different kinds of higher density residential. Medium density residential is the urban neighborhood, urban village, which includes and residential transition. So looking at tiny homes, cluster homes, duplexes, multiplexes, things like that, and then neighborhood commercial where upper floor residential is allowed. Low medium density would just be the urban village and neighborhood, urban neighborhood. Low density is the category which occupies the majority of the city, where we are just limiting that to traditional neighborhoods, so maintaining those larger lots to protect those residential neighborhoods. Recreation open space, again, public lands institution, that district isn't applied anywhere, so it's just gonna stay unchanged. Any questions on that? Okay. All right. You saw this briefly back in June. We fleshed it out some more. So in June, we were looking at summarizing or high-level permissible uses. Today, we're going to go over all of the permissible uses, the special exception uses, and any use that's not listed, we would be considered not permitted. Okay, so traditional neighborhood would capture the current agricultural zonings, so the 1 acre, half acre, A1, A2, the rural cluster, country estates, half acre, 1 acre, and then our AAA and our AA are your the lesser dense zoning districts. So those will go under traditional neighborhood. So the uses under that would be the traditional single-family residence, urban agriculture tier 1, which is the more intense one, but we're establishing a minimum acreage of 2 acres because we're considering, because there's still existing ag A1 properties, and the existing land development code allows agriculture, a whole variety of agriculture, so we can't not allow it because we don't want to take someone's existing rights away, but we're just making that a minimum of 2 acres. So anyone who has like a 1 acre farm, for example, can still operate, but any new farms would have to be at least a minimum of 2 acres. Not including chickens, because chickens are allowed now. They're just going to stay how they are, go where they please. Then there's urban agriculture tier 2, which is the non-invasive type stuff like fruits and veggies and apiaries. We didn't set a minimum acreage for apiaries because they're essentially regulated by the State Department of Agriculture Services already. And then we have public park and recreation facilities, community gardens, public libraries, and religious institutions. That is in there because it's allowed by right in A1, A2, RCE1, and RCE2. So special exceptions for this traditional would be duplexes. So again, even though we have a minimum living area for duplexes, it's not a by right use, but because it's allowed by special exception, we needed to have a standard for it. Public and private schools, that's the same as what it's now. Golf courses, the same as now. Private clubs, childcare, nursing homes, those are all required by special exception now, so we're just leaving those the same. Going on to urban neighborhood, so from left to right, we're going in more dense. So the R1A, R1, R12, if you look at the existing minimum lot standards, are almost all the same size, between 7,000, 7,500, 8,000, 8,500 square foot in size for the lots. So we grouped those together. So the uses allowed in that category would include single-family residences, duplexes, adult congregate living facilities, urban tier 2, which are the non-animal tier, public parks and community gardens, and then the special exceptions will still stay the same. Urban village, so you'll see R2 in the urban neighborhood section and R2 in the urban village section, because this current table lists them R2 for single family and R2 for duplexes. So we group them, we split them up that way. So urban village is trying to create the concept of creating a little village to help promote that walkability. You'll see in the commercial aspect of it, a hearing would be required for your commercial, and you can't exceed 2,000 square feet. So single-family townhomes, duplexes, multiplexes up to 4, so basically nothing bigger than a quadruplex building. Live-work units, so you can have like the one that was approved back many years ago, actually 2021 when I first started, along Ruis and North Lakewood, where the first floor is commercial, the second floor is a single residential unit. So that would be like a live-work situation. Public parks, community gardens, etc. So it's interesting that I see this now, because we just worked on some language with Mike that might come back to this. So I'll bring this back up later. Residential transition is mobile homes, districts now married to the R3s that allow for multifamily and other high-density uses. So mobile homes would go here, tiny homes would go here, cottage cluster homes, community residential home majors, which are those that serve 7 to 14 residents, and then parks and community gardens. And then here, because it's transitioning to the highest density in terms of development form, we're including neighborhood scale commercial, so as a by right use. So at this point, these types of uses are much further away from the neighborhood, the traditional neighborhood. If someone wanted to go bigger than 2,500 square feet, then they would have to go through a special exception. And then you see the list of other things there. We also recognize the need that there may be a need for like social services and welfare services, but we didn't list them as a use by right, just to make sure that the commission and this body had a chance to weigh in on those uses that could have impacts to the surrounding neighborhoods. And then the last residential category is mixed residential. So pretty much everything, I think we didn't include single-family homes because we didn't want to have a situation where a single-family development comes in and it just sort of negates the possibility of having a mixture of housing types in an area intended for a higher diversity of housing types to serve different stages of life. And then in that scenario, the commercial now is going up to 5,000 square feet. Okay. There's a lot of slides, but it's duplicative, and I sort of went through all of them here, but these next series of slides is just the same thing in a bigger font. So we provided copies to all of you so that after tonight, if you want to provide feedback after tonight, you're welcome to do so, and then email them to me, and then we'll definitely include them in our code writing with Mike and Craig. So I think the intent of this, Tori, was to provide it in a bigger font, but I literally just went over it, so we'll probably just skip through all of this. It's just so that you can see it better, and just in case there might have been someone in the audience who wanted to take a picture, this is easier for them to take a picture of it. Okay, commercial. If you skip a few pages, the first page that has the red at the top is non-residential. So in this one, this slide is intended to show all of the 6 categories. We started off with 6, we're still ending with 6 because even though we created the new mixed use, we combined PS with C1. And so the thought process on this going from left to right is that neighborhood commercial is the least intensive type of commercial because generally they will be closest to residential. And then we discussed this back in June that the biggest building footprint or the biggest building square footage would be 10,000. You could have multiple 10,000 square foot buildings or a 10,000 and a 5,000, but in order to keep the scale down to something that is compatible with neighborhoods, we scaled it down to 10,000. And as I mentioned in June, if you think about putting multiple businesses in something the size of a little bit bigger than the L house down the road here, you could probably have 2 or 3 nice sized tenants in a 9,000 square foot space, and that's something that people could still walk to. So going from left to right, all of the uses that are allowed in neighborhood commercial would also be considered allowed in community commercial, except that the square footage can be a little bit bigger. Not a little bit bigger, 15,000 square foot bigger. So I want to step back a little bit. If you look at the existing land use permissible uses table, it lists the zoning districts and then all the different kinds of specific use types. But if you do that and you try to update that table to consider all the different kinds of use types, then we would create a very long use table that is multiple pages, like in some other jurisdictions. We looked at Oviedo, Castleberry, Winter Garden, Winter Parks at their use table, and they sort of grouped them by use categories. So, for example, in the neighborhood commercial, multiplex residential is allowed because ideally it'll be next to residential transition or mixed residential. Upper story residential will be allowed. Retail, so instead of listing grocery store, superstore, appliance store, we just say retail. If you're selling a product, it's retail. Then dining establishment. We thought that we had a great deal of discussion, Tori and I, about should we say dining with drive-through, dining without drive-through. But at the end of the day, it's dining, and we want to put in codes in place that says, okay, if you're having dining with drive-through, then the drive-through needs to be more well integrated into the site, especially depending on the road system that is attached to. So if the dining facility happens to be along State Road 50, it may be okay. It's not in one of our key CRA areas. It could be on 50, or it could be on Silver Star. But if it's along Blueford, we don't necessarily want to see a dining drive-through along Blueford. So, for example, the CVS going towards Windermere, that has a drive-through, but driving by there, you can't readily see it. And then I think, Tori, we meant to have this establishment without drive-throughs, given what we just talked about. So probably that needs to, because there was a point when this actually used to say automobile-oriented without drive-through, so that might be something that we probably need to look at. I didn't mean to go forward. Look at again. And then civic assembly and event spaces. There are locations in Winter Park downtown and Winter Garden where a restaurant could be rented out as a civic space for bridal showers or baby showers and whatnot. There could be an opportunity for a museum or a gallery, an art studio or something like that. That's a gallery, not for sale. That would be a civic space. So we wanted to make sure, when you go downtown, you expect to be able to walk to a museum or walk to a gallery or something like that. So we included that. Public buildings and uses, indoor recreation and entertainment, personal services, and we'll have a definition when we bring the definitions to you on what would be included in personal services. Like a laundromat, a dry cleaner. So if you needed to pick up your dry cleaning on the way to work or something like that, it could be something nearby. Then sales, service, repairs of bicycles and similar vehicles for one person, like what is it called? The Winter Garden, the electric, what is it called? Bike Works, Wheel Works? Yep. Because there's such a transition to e-bikes and electric scooters and all that, it would be great to, if you're relying on your electric bike, it would be great to just ride it to a location nearby your house to get that serviced. And then community residential major, as mentioned, and senior housing. We thought about doing restricted senior housing, but then we also thought about, because of the vision from 2045, the goal is more to looking at standards that sets the urban form and design and layout, like the ribs of the property, where the driveways go, where the drive aisles go, where the connections are, access points, the exterior shape of the building, because uses change over time. But once the building's built and the roads are done, then that takes a lot more to actually have a full demo and reconstruction. So those are all the C1 uses or neighborhood commercial uses, and then those would then be allowed in the C2 community commercial in addition to these other things, medical, healthcare, and without overnight stays. So when we were looking at the the surgical center on Old Winter Garden Road, some of the neighbors to the south of us, which are in Orange County, they had called to express concerns about people staying overnight. So we didn't necessarily want to place something that would allow overnight stays next to a single-family home. So that's why that is in there, for no overnight stays. And then business offices and services not requiring outdoor storage or the conduct of business outside. So currently, we don't have any line item for trade services. Your plumbers, your carpenters, your electrical people, there's no slot category for them. We'd like to be able to put them in a community commercial as long as their operation doesn't require any outdoor storage or activity, so that they're not disturbing the context of the area. Then craft repairs and services, as I mentioned before, I discovered that cobbler down the street on McGuire, so I've taken several of my heels that I love, where the heel's broken, but the shoe's fine. So they need a place on the use table too. So it's captured through crafts, repairs, and services. And then establishments with drive-throughs, so the heavier drive-through uses, drive-through banks, banks with drive-throughs, things that are predominantly drive-through would go there. Community convenience market without gas sales, because then community convenience markets with gas sales would be more on the arterial. And then auto sales office only, exclusively online, no on-site inventory. And then standalone trade schools, pet care services, which was approved by the commission 2 years ago, I think, to be in a C2, so we just carried that over. And then shopping centers, that's also a carryover. So all of those that are in community commercial will be allowed also in arterial, and as you see in this list, arterial gets more hectic. So actually, Toy Shopping Center, we meant to move that over to C3, I believe. Let's double check. I think where Old Time Pottery was, I believe that's C3. So we just didn't want to create any zoning where the existing development would become a non-conformity. And then C3, arterial commercial, is 50,000 square foot buildings and the more intense commercial square footages. Light industrial, you see all those lists there. It's all the uses as permitted in the arterial commercial, except that we wouldn't allow single-family detached homes, duplexes, townhomes, and multiplex residential. In the light industrial, craft industrial would be allowed, social welfare services, medical office with overnight stays, industrial uses without outdoor storage, which is how we have it now. Industrial uses with outdoor storage is in I2, so we'll keep that the same. Car washes are only allowed in I1 and C3 now. I think we're trying to move it away from C3, so it'll just be in I1. pet care services, and public lodging, excluding hotels. Public lodging is also in C3. So I'm sorry, I zipped over C3 very quickly. Trying to not bore you with all the verbiage, but so heavy industrial would capture everything. All the stuff that we don't want anywhere near residential would just go into heavy industrial.
Quick question.
Yes.
So if somebody wanted to build a new car wash, it would have to be in L1?
I'm sorry, C3 and I1.
I1 is what I meant to say, sorry.
Yes, that's how it is now. So you have to be at least C3 and I1 or I1 to have a car wash.
Okay, got it, thank you.
And that would be like a standalone where the primary use is the car wash.
The new ones, yeah.
Yeah, not like an ancillary car wash.
Like the one that could go behind, say, Wawa, right? Is that I1?
That's C3.
Yes, C3, okay.
No, I'm sorry. That one's a PUD that allowed car washes.
Do we have a lot of I1?
Not very many when you leave, the south of Franklin area. There's very, very limited amount. And then also too, there's a big chunk of the I1s and a small portions of I2 that's now covered by the mixed use category. And those are predominantly vacant sites or along the corridors where if they were to redevelop, then we would be looking at requiring the protection of the view shed to bring the site up and things like that. And then mixed use. So this one's interesting because when we toiled with thinking about the uses that would be allowed in mixed use, right off the bat, we were thinking, oh, what do we want to see in downtown, which is now a mixed use designation, and the CRA, which is now a mixed use designation. But we also needed to remember that someone could seek to change a land use category from commercial, for example, to mixed use if they met the location criteria and the compatibility criteria in the comp plan. So just in case there's a scenario out there where a mixed use, future land use and zoning could go someplace else, we had to think about those uses as well to see if it made sense. Residential is in there because the downtown has residential. There are lots of existing single-family homes that we don't want to create as nonconformities. So we left that in there. All the uses that are allowed in the mixed residential will be allowed, so the duplex, quads, triplexes, and the neighborhood commercial district. So the uses that are way over here on the far left, so the less egregious uses and sizes. And then entertainment, not including adult entertainment. So it may be a comedy studio or, someplace where you can go and just hang out. Artisan and craft retail, parking garage. One thought is, should that say parking facilities? But we don't necessarily want to use up valuable downtown or CRA space for parking lots, surface lots. So right now we're leaving it as parking garage so that whoever wants to do that is actually going to make a worthwhile investment in the downtown or whatever their mixed-use location is in order to help eliminate the argument that, oh, we need this for parking, so you can't make us do a garage. They can still provide surface parking, but if they wanted to just use their lot for just a parking use only, it would have to be a garage. And then restricted drinking establishments, simply because the current code is very sensitive to just having bars and cocktail lounges. So we wanted to put in there right now as a use restricted and then putting in parameters in, how like in the current use table, there are footnotes. So putting those footnotes at the bottom to regulate maybe the size, scale of those drinking establishments. But, you go to any downtown, there's probably at least one location where you can go. First thing on top of my head is like Cheers, the wine club, things like that. So, or the wine bar, and there's the wine I think there's a wine bar or a wine club in Winter Park as well. I went in there and I just looked and I turned right around and walked back because I was just so confused about what I was supposed to do. But there were a lot of people there. I was the only one in there that did not know what I was supposed to do. Just like when I went to the one here, I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Let's see. And then specialty commercial, restricted public lodging. That is, if you remember the downtown master plan, the commission had approved bed and breakfast in the downtown master plan in 2 of the 4 core geographic areas. So we didn't want to outright say lodging. We wanted to have it restricted lodging so that someone could convert their large house for newly retired folks or, someone just starting out as a family or a small business. They could do a bed and breakfast, something along those lines. And then just as like the other one with restricted drinking establishments, we could footnote to the extent of the scale of the lodging. I do want to say that's not going to be the same thing as regulating tourist homes. State preempts that, so we don't really have a say in anyone converting or using 4 rooms in their house for a tourist home in any zoning district. Specialty commercial, what we thought about says specialty commercial has already been created in the downtown master plan. We thought about specialty retail, but retail would just be sales of stuff. If we say specialty commercial, it could be retail plus services. The definition for that staff is considering right now are those uses that would be age restricted. So like we did some research, you need a parental consent if you want to buy, if you wanted to pick up your prescription or tattoos. Tattoo establishments have an age restriction. Buying tobacco has an age restriction. So those are the specialty commercial that could be allowed in the mixed use area simply because we have them now. We don't want to make them immediately non-conforming, but at the same time, there are probably other specialty things out there. Tori, help me out. What were some of the other uses that were specialty? Yeah. Yeah, specific services that, I'm sure there's something out there that we haven't thought about. We just wanted to be able to catch it in a category. And as we're writing the definitions, we'll be looking at definitions from other jurisdictions to make sure that we capture it all. And then restricted religious institutions. Why did we say restricted religious institutions?
I think we just had it from childcare design. Thinking about like the childcare, for instance, was about stacking and how we would handle the stacking of cars, and I think we
Yeah.
just handled that the same way.
So restricted religious institutions and restricted childcare is just so that we can restrict the size through a footnote so that it doesn't create a vehicular issue. If that's something that you all want to provide input on, we would happily welcome that because that was kind of a struggle because the downtown master plan allowed them in, because there's 4 districts, 4 areas, and they were both allowed in a few of those areas, those geographic areas. It was actually, childcare was actually allowed in the downtown core, but it wasn't allowed in the industrial special district or in the McGuire corridor. So churches were allowed in the downtown core, but not allowed in the neighborhood. So it's like, we're struggling with that one a little bit, actually. So please.
Didn't though we made it to where you have to have a special exception for a church, right? Where it can't be automatically approved, or?
We can move it to the special exception. It's just that we were trying to tackle the fact that the commission had approved it in certain locations and without taking those rights away.
If I remember correctly, I think that conversation started when we looked at the last church that tried to go in over next to Publix.
That's a conventional zoning district. That was just a C2.
No, I know, but I thought we decided all city-wide that it was gonna be a special exception.
I can look back at that hearing if that's the case, then.
It wasn't for that hearing, but I thought the commissioner made that a ruling to where churches needed to be a special exception.
Let us look through the city commission notes. Do you
If I'm
remember
thinking
what
correctly,
month that might
because
have
it was
been?
about, if you're gonna go close to where there may be a place that's already established that could sell alcohol, or same thing with downtown.
Right, we discussed like provisions where if a church were approved, that, next to a plaza, like a Publix that could have alcohol sales or alcohol consumption, then the provision would be that that church facility couldn't raise a stink, basically. Yes, I do remember that conversation, where they couldn't come to a hearing and make a request to the commission
Correct.
to reject something because they are there.
I think part of that made the conversation then go, I think
Okay.
it should be a special exception,
Okay,
my opinion.
I think Tori's taking notes.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm gonna
okay.
second that, because that was gonna be my question too.
Okay,
Not that we want churches, right? We want it to be
Right.
a special exception because of the caveats that it could create.
okay. Do you want that for all of the zoning districts where churches might be allowed?
Yes.
Okay,
Because you never know. I mean, you look in, the neighborhood commercial, right? There could be a liquor store or a small wine shop there, whatever, right? And I mean, same with any school.
I think when Mr. Mellon was here, he had suggested that staff look at Article 43 regarding alcohol sales and consumption to see if there was still a need to have churches in that list for the locational criteria. We haven't really discussed that since Mike was our director. I can certainly bring that back up to him to see if just changing that to exclude churches, then schools would still stay the same. So that's
Right.
something that we can bring back to the board.
Yeah. Well, I mean, is there a requirement for daycares to be a certain distance away from alcohol sales as well, or?
When I was at Oviedo, when we were writing our legislation for microbreweries, we could not find it anywhere in statutes that it had to be a certain distance from a place that offered on-site consumption.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if it's just something that was put into place by this city commission, a couple decades ago.
Yeah, I would definitely like to see if because if that's the case, then I would want that as well to be a special exception.
Okay.
There's, again, right, in a
Oh,
neighborhood,
for schools, I think schools not allowed there now, so, schools, let me see, schools. I know there's schools allowed by special exception in the residential districts, so let me look. Okay, sorry, this is the list here for mixed use, I'm sorry, for special exceptions. This we couldn't put on one slide, so, it looks like schools, yes. The second from the bottom bullet is special exception for private or public schools, standalone vocational and trade schools. So they could have a trade school as part of it, inside of an office space. For example, if someone had an office building that had space available to lease to someone looking to operate a nursing school for in-home care nurses, they could go into that space.
right? Does public or private school encapsulate daycare or?
In our current definition, preschools and daycares are included, but when we revise the definition, we can consider taking daycares out.
Then they would need to be a special exception.
Because daycares, they don't report to FDOE. I believe the ones that have VPK funding, they're just on the docket, but they're not an official academic preschool. Based on my recollection of when I worked at the state with DOE doing school concurrency, it was kindergarten and above.
So would you consider like Country Day School over here, which is a daycare, but they do VPK?
Yeah, so VPK is preschool, not kindergarten. And I'll double check with DOE, but it's my understanding that it's kindergarten and higher.
Okay.
So that's one of the things that I wanted to look at as far as revising the school definition, because it also excludes universities and colleges and trade schools. So we want to update our, we have 2 staff people working on the definitions right now.
Cool. Thanks.
So this first slide, which went into some details, permissible uses, then we have special exception uses. There's a lot to go through there, but just like with the residential, we're saying any use that's not listed, and these are use categories that are not listed are considered not permitted. Outdoor commercial, for example, outdoor recreation, commercial recreation, for example, would be a special exception. Case in point, Orange County just opened the putt-putt greens, putt-putt golf place over there on Independence. Pop something,
Pop stroke.
Pop Stroke. Almost right across from Urban Flats. No, Urban Air.
Urban
I'm
Air.
sorry.
I was
guess
gonna
I'm
say, I don't
getting
think
hungry.
there's an Urban Flats anymore.
Urban Air, sorry. But that would be an outdoor commercial recreation, but if it's nicely scaled and fits into a mixed-use environment, may not be here downtown, but it may be mixed-use over there north side of the city or something like that, that could be allowed as a special exception, depending on the impact.
Like special exception
Hmm?
away from the city,
Special exception away from the city?
so it would be approved?
Well, I don't understand away from the city, what do you mean?
So like you just said that, kind of like,
Oh, away from downtown, like,
I mean downtown, yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Yes, away from downtown. But if there were to be like maybe somebody wants to do like a rock climbing wall or something small scale that mix well. As an example,
A pickleball court, an outside pickleball court.
I'm not even touching that one. So we got our properties across the street here, and we have the properties on the southwest corner of McKee and Kissimmee, that if, for example, there are buildings in place where there's commercial, retail, restaurants, there might be an opportunity for just some sort of outdoor entertainment, recreation that fits that site that could be allowed. Like a little small rock wall or something that could be outside. Or a children's play zone that could be inside, outside. When my kids were little, my sister would take them, when she lives in Tampa, she would take them to the kids zone that has indoor and outdoor recreation space. It's a commercial establishment, but it allows indoor and outdoor space for children to play. As you're reading through this, any questions? I don't want to read through all of them. Anything that's jumping out at you right now that you want us to consider? You can always write your comments, mark it up how you like, and then send them back to us. This is a lot to absorb in one evening in a very short time. But we do want to, yes,
I was just gonna suggest, since there's a couple, I just noticed a couple of typos.
yeah.
We could clean this up and then.
We can email it to you as well. We can email it to you in PDF. That's probably easier for us to keep track of instead of PowerPoint.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Do we have any updates? I know this is probably not part of this, but from our last conversation where we got stuck in the mud on change of use with like
That-
auto.
Yes, yes, that we have looked into it, but no, we don't have an update for you.
Well, I think that, I know that we looked into the one section, the one part about, I don't remember the specifics of changing the use, but that, what we were trying to do is not.
So the change of tenancy and
it's not
occupancy, I don't really want to say that yet because Craig specifically said that we're not bringing that non-conforming regulations back to the board until legal and city staff has had more time to research. So, yeah,
But so far, it looks like it's probably not gonna
Correct.
fly. Yeah, good. Good. Non-conforming change of occupancy.
legal non-conforming change of occupancy.
Yes.
If it's an illegal non-conforming change of occupancy, they have no rights.
Right.
Okay, so zipping through all these, because we went through it over, oh, good grief. The last slide. So, something that's come up recently is an interest by a couple of elected officials and some residents through some other community meetings that wanted staff to evaluate whether or not the threshold for whether something qualifies as a large scale or a small scale needs to be reconsidered. So the current existing thresholds for non-residential is 25,000 square feet. And then for residential, it's more than 12 dwelling units. And what staff has come up with is for non-residential is 10,000 square feet. So that ties into the neighborhood commercial zoning district. But there are uses out there that are smaller than 10,000 square feet that have a significant impact to the surrounding areas. So we're also proposing that any use, regardless of the size, that causes an adverse impact to capacity for transportation, infrastructure, utilities, and things like that, or a use that, when we evaluate it, causes the level of service to not operate, to fail.
Do you have an example?
Convenience stores with gas sales. It's less than 5,000 square feet, but it's literally 200-plus trips per fueling station per day.
So a gas station with 8 or 12 pumps?
Yeah, most of them now are at least 8 fueling positions, so 4 bays with 1 on each side. Fast food restaurants, the trend that we are seeing now are the ones that don't have any patron space on the inside. It's strictly vehicular use. We actually had a pre-op on one now where it's less than 1,000 square feet, but it's entirely vehicular. So,
Yeah, that'll be like a Checkers, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yep.
How do you know what the adverse impact on transportation would be?
So we have the
The
concurrency
trips.
management system now, and based on the ITE manual, all the uses are captured there. So if we see a use that changes to something that's going to create a big hit to our system, then we were required to go to a hearing as a large scale.
And what are the adopted levels of, is that the going into the same thing on the level of service standard?
Yes, sir. It's those standards that are in the comp plan that was recently adopted. For example, if the use requires, if the use requires a lot of trips and we want to make sure that it's an area that promotes pedestrian and bike use and the facility isn't there or the facilities aren't there, then we would bring that item to the city commission for a hearing to make sure that they look at the systemic impact.
Cool.
And then leaving residential the same. So that's all that we have for you tonight in terms of our data dump. We definitely welcome your feedback. Please take your time and looking through the uses. If there's anything, there's a use out there that you're familiar with that we've missed, please let us know that. If you feel that something needs to be moved into a different category, then please let us know that as well. Tori, do you want to? Okay.
Great job.
Yes.
Good, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Appreciate you.
Yes. There is a community meeting tomorrow night for the pickleball, so it'll be here in Chambers from 6 to 8.
Cool.
Okay.
Do we come?
Yes, you can come. You're not an elected official. We've sunshined the meeting, so the general public knows that more than one commissioner may be there. So commissioners
I haven't seen any
are.
advertising for it. Where's it? Was it just in the paper?
No, it's not a hearing, so we don't advertise it in the paper, but we sent it to 300 feet of the property as well as to the communities of the Hammocks and the entirety of Crestwood Heights. And it's also rolling on the community calendar, the spotlight calendar.
Can you ask
And
somebody to put it on Facebook if that's allowed? So-
we sent it to Doug Gaines with Community Relations to post it.
What time is it again, I'm sorry?
Tomorrow from 6 to 8.
I live 2 neighborhoods away from there, I didn't know anything about it, so.
Sorry.
Okay.
I didn't verify whether or not it's on Facebook, because I'm not a Facebooker.
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
I don't have Facebook, so.
I do.
I created a Facebook account when my son was 2. He's 16.
All right, so that brings us to number 2, which is project status report. Anything you'd like to share?
Let's see. Oh, I do want to share that we are going to update that project status document, because right now, Ginger and I feel like it's not very useful. We just need to do a better job of doing that document and then linking it to a map system online, so that any resident can click on it and know the project status without actually having access to that documentation.
It would be great to have it, attached right to either the permitting deal. Mm-hmm. That would be wonderful.
But in terms of projects, we've had a few pre-application meetings, a few technical staff review meetings, but we currently don't have any projects that are ready to bring forward to the commission. There's a new pita restaurant,
A
I'm
new what?
thrilled. A pita Mediterranean restaurant that I'm excited about, because I like Mediterranean food.
Yeah. Like a little Greek kind of deal?
Kinda like a little
Love
Greek.
that.
Yeah. So there's a restaurant in downtown Orlando called Pita Pit.
Love Pita Pit.
Man, when I worked at Tyndall Oliver, I would go there and I would ask for everything, and he would struggle to roll my pita, and
Oh,
just
yeah.
the foil was the only thing keeping it together.
The last thing will be the sprouts on the top.
Yes. But Mr. Chair, I will do a better job of bringing you any updates of things that are either
Doing a
pending or.
terrible job.
Sorry.
Where's
question.
Ginger when we need her? When is her last day?
Friday.
And she didn't think to come here tonight?
She was supposed to come here. She texted me at 5:50 and said that unfortunately she wouldn't be able to make it. She was going to come and do the Sound of Music farewell adieu. She bids you goodbye kind of thing, but unfortunately she wasn't able to return.
You let her know I'm very upset.
She's watching.
Ginger?
She does watch all of these hearings and
Not happy
meetings,
with
so
you.
she's watching.
You want to give any update on the baseball field? Any?
So the mass grading permit has come back, and I believe Brett has indicated at a staff meeting this morning that it's ready to be approved, so their next step is a site work permit to do the mass grade. They went through several rounds between us, planning, Public Works, floodplain management. We reached out to DEP as well to make sure that there weren't any state permitting requirements as far as soil and contamination mitigation. They will provide like air monitoring stations in different locations on the site to make sure that the particulate matter isn't going above what's allowed in terms of the arsenic and things like
Time
that.
to break ground already.
Yes, definitely looking forward to that. We haven't heard any movement on the transportation planning on that, so.
Yep. What about I know there were some comments, the regional training facility has put the sign up. When are we looking to
Yep,
get
I
that
believe
started?
the groundbreaking is September 27th. It's either 1/7 or 2/7. I'm pretty sure it's 27th. And then, let's see. I know that Craig had wanted staff to be there, so we will try our best to be there.
That's gonna be great.
Yep.
Anybody else have anything else?
I got a question. I don't know if it
Yes.
relates to this. On Ruiz and Flewelling, they're doing all that road work. Is it on this or no? On this docket? Because I haven't seen it. And like,
No, if it's a city project, then it would be on the development project
Hmm.
update, because the development project update is for private property projects.
okay. To get info on that, who would I talk to?
So that would be Public Works.
Oh,
I can
Public Works.
definitely pass your question to the city engineer and then
I
send you
just-
an email.
I just have a question. If they were gonna put a second coat of asphalt, or they're just gonna leave it as how they have it now?
That I don't know. I know they're going through the process of remilling and resurfacing some streets, I believe, alongside of their sidewalk improvements. But I can bring back a report to you. I can just send an email to you directly.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Everybody have a good night.
You're welcome.